welcome to another edition of the Classic Traction Review, and in this volume we will see some of the finest steam and diesel action as captured by the Classic Traction film crew, as witnessed on preserved lines and the national network throughout the spring and early summer of 2022. Some of the many highlights coming up will include a focus on freight operations and rail tours in the West Country, including a review of the Midland Pullman HST, and a look at the unique Northeastern Railcar No. 3170 at the Embsay Bolton Steam Railway. We will also see Great Western Prairie 4555 at work on the East Somerset Railway, the South Devon's 150th Anniversary Gala, the Great Britain 14 Rail Tour featuring Duchess of Sutherland in the far west, and the Swanage Diesel Gala, and much, much more. We begin our review in the far west, with a look back at some local workings in the West Country. One of the regular freights that operates from Cornwall is the 1151 Parkindillock to Exeter Riverside Yard, formed of China clay, and making its presence felt 66176 storms through Liscard. The freight generally operates once or twice a week, depending on the output of China clay from the pits in Cornwall, and with around 1100 tonnes of clay in tow, 66152 climbs through Keam in the Plymouth suburbs. Making a relatively rare appearance in the west, maritime blue liveried 66148 is working hard as she crosses the magnificent Keam Viaduct, highlighted by the winter light in February 2022. Double-headed Class 66s are rare this far west, but on the 10th of March, the working justified 2 GM Type 5s, despite only being loaded to 7 wagons. And we see 66105 and 66009 as they pass through Devonport. The loaded China clay is usually sent in 2 loads over the South Devon banks before being reformed into one train at Exeter. And climbing the 1 in 42 gradient of Hemerdon Bank, 66105 has a relatively light load of just 7 wagons on the 24th of February as she heads to Exeter. With Hemerdon Bank conquered, the driver of 66168 can relax slightly as they pass along the Langham levels near Ivy Bridge and head to Exeter. An interesting working in the West is the monthly appearance of the new measurement train. Formed of former NER power cars 43257 and 43299, now with Colas branding, they pass Devonport, working the 0611 Reading to Paignton via Penzance measurement train. In March 2022, there was the rare chance to see GWR's fleet of nocturnal Class 57s operating in the daytime, due to returning empty stock between Long Rock Depot in Penzance and Reading. The fleet of 4 Class 57-6s are normally restricted to the night Riviera sleeper, and we see 57605 Totnes Castle past Devonport. Rebuilt from former Class 47s between 1998 and 2004, the Class 57s are powered by a reconditioned 12-cylinder EMD series engine from General Motors and an alternator from a Class 56. And we see 57603 Tintagel Castle as she passes Langham, heading the 1044 Long Rock to Reading Train Care Depot ECS. Next we head to the Embsay Bolton Steam Railway in North Yorkshire, which is home to the unique Northeastern Railway electric autocar number 3170 that was built in 1903 at York Works. When originally built, the electric autocars were powered by petrol engines that generated electricity for the 2 traction motors that were mounted underneath. Initially, Napier petrol engines were used, but these were quickly replaced in 1904 with Wolseley flat 4 engines that generated 92 brake horsepower. Just 2 electric rail cars were built by the Northeastern, with the last one, 3170, being withdrawn from traffic on the 4th of April 1931. And we see her as she enters Bow Bridge Loop, the current limit of the line. Leaving Bowbridge Loop, the truncated junction with Network Rail, which serves the freight-only line to Ralston, can briefly be seen in the background as 3170 heads back towards Embsay. When introduced, the rail cars originally worked on Teesside, before settling down to a life in Yorkshire, working branch services on lines around Scarborough, Harrogate and Selby. After withdrawal, the body of number 3170 was used as a holiday home in North Yorkshire for over 70 years, before being purchased for preservation. Her restoration has involved restoring the body to a new underframe and re-engineering it with a new diesel engine generator and traction motors. Restored to her Edwardian splendour, today 3170 is equipped with new modern control equipment and a Cummins diesel generator and traction motors, so as to comply with modern regulations. And we see 3170 as she passes Holywell Holt. On the 26th of March, a pair of Class 50s made a welcome return to Devon with the springtime hoovering and Devon railtour. Visiting both the Paignton and Oakhampton branches, we see 50007 Hercules and 50049 Defiance as they pass gasworks sidings at Hollycombe as they approach Paignton. Next, they headed to Oakhampton, and now in top and tail formation, 50007, which was masquerading as Long Scrap's sister 50034 Furious, with 50049 Defiance on the rear, stormed through Newton St Sires. On the 13th of April, the Midland Pullman visited the Kingswear line, working the 0515 Bangor to Kingswear Devonian Pullman. and recently repainted into 1980s intercity livery, 43049 Neville Hill leads 43046 Jeff Drury as they climb Goodrington Bank. Returning from Kingswear, the pair make a glorious sight as they pass along the Dart estuary, and this time with 43046 Jeff Drury leading, the pair pass Britannia Crossing. On the 23rd of April, the English Riviera statesman once again visited the Paignton branch, this time worked by a pair of Class 47s from the Locomotive Services Limited pool, leaving Paignton, D1924 Crew Diesel Depot and D1935 Roger Hoskin MA power away with the return working back to Ely. We now head to the East Somerset Railway at Cranmore, and during a photo charter depicting a milk train that was once an everyday scene on branch lines across the Great Western system, GWR Prairie Tank 4555 moves away from Cranmore Shed. The East Somerset Railway operates for 2.5 miles from Cranmore to Mendip Vale, running over part of the former Cheddar Valley line that ran from Witham to Yatton and which closed to passengers in 1963. Having picked up the milk at Mendip Vale, 4555 begins the climb to Cranmore with her short milk train. Great Western Prairie tanks were designed by Churchward and were introduced from 1906 onwards, and were the best known of the GWR's branch line engines, operating local services throughout the West Country for close on 60 years. "4555 was built at Swindon in September 1924 and began her working life at Tyseley, working suburban services in and around Birmingham. But as she climbs past the Mendip Vale distant, it could so easily be a scene somewhere on the Cheddar Valley line during the late 1920s. And joining the crew of 4555, we now enjoy a footplate ride as she climbs the 1 in 56 gradient towards Cranmore. Her life as a GWR Prairie was fairly uneventful, and until September 1957 she was based in mid-Wales, before later moving to Westbury, and we see 4555 as she approaches Cranmore Station. At the end of April, the South Devon Railway celebrated the 150th anniversary of the opening of the Ashburton branch on the 1st of May 1872 with a special commemorative gala. One of the highlights was the visit of one of the original Dart Valley Railway stalwarts, GWR Prairie 4555, which we see passing Hood Bridge. Also in action was the ever-popular GWR Auto Trailer number 233, which we see passing Bishop's Bridge Loop, being propelled by Prairie Tank 5526 as they head to Buckfordsley. Passing the tranquil setting of Dartington, we see double-headed prairies as 4555 pilots 5526 as they skirt the River Dart and head for Totnes. Next, we see one of the line stalwarts, GWR push-pull fitted pannier tank number 6430, which was built at Swindon in February 1937, and passing Dartington, she heads the 1545 working from Buckfastleigh to Totnes. "6430 was to spend much of her working life based in South Wales, before ending her career based in the West Country. And returning to Buckfastleigh, the race is definitely on, as 6430 races a canoe along the River Dart. Hauling a perfect recreation of a period Great Western pickup goods, we see 4555 as she heads the 1625 Buckfastleigh to Totnes Riverside goods. Returning from Totnes, it's almost a perfect recreation from the 1920s, as 4555 heads the return goods back to Bishopsbridge Loop. On the 28th of April, steam once again returned to the main line in the far west, when 6233 Duchess of Sutherland headed the Great Britain 14 rail tour, and we see the Duchess as she rounds the curve at Lower Cheston and begins the climb to Rangerton. Having paused at Plymouth, the Duchess continued her journey into the Royal Duchy, and having crossed over Brunel's masterpiece at Saltash, she continues her journey on to Penzance. With an early morning departure from Penzance, Duchess of Sutherland headed the final section of the tour back to London Victoria, which we see passing Mount Pleasant Bridge near Bethany. Perhaps one of the toughest sections of the journey back to London was the challenging 1 in 42 gradient of Hemerdon Bank, just east of Plymouth. One of the country's steepest mainline sections, we see Duchess of Sutherland with load 10 on as she tackles this severe 2-mile climb and nears Hemerdon summit. At the end of May, the Duchess was back in the West Country when she headed the South Devon Explorer rail tour from Woking to Plymouth. Despite leaving Plymouth almost 20 minutes late on the return working, Duchess of Sutherland is in excellent form as she climbs away from Blatchford Viaduct. Next, we head to the Swanage Railway, and attending the railway for the occasion of their annual Diesel Gala was one of the newly refurbished GWRf Class 69s. 69004, ex-works and painted in the attractive red and blue livery of the Railway Technical Centre, is seen with 73136 as they pass Creech Bottom, running light engine from Eastleigh East Yard. The 69s have been rebuilt from the body shells of former Class 56s, in this case from 56069, but are powered by a General Motors EMD 710 series engine as used in the Class 66s. This has led to enthusiasts referring to these powerful new engines as Franken grids, and we see 69004 and 73136 as they pass Afflington Bridge on their way to Swanage. Visiting the Diesel Gala from the South Devon Railway was Class 25 D7612, and we see the Sulzer Type 2 as she crosses Corfe Common, recreating an interregional train from the 1960s. Class 25 and Class 50 combinations were not uncommon in the southwest, following the cascade of the 50s to replace the diesel hydraulics. And we see D7612 piloting Network Southeast liveried 50026 Indomitable as they cross Corfe Viaduct. With Class 31 31128 trailing on the rear, we hear the raspy exhaust note from her 6-cylinder Sulzer power plant as D7612 climbs past the foot crossing at Creech Bottom and heads for Swanage. In another scene at Creech Bottom, 31128 heads towards River Froome with a train from Swanage, with D7612 bringing up the rear. Making a wonderful noise from her 12-cylinder English electric engine, 31128 reaches the summit of the Swanage branch as she passes Creech Heath and climbs the 1 in 78 gradient to Fursbrook sidings. D14128 was new as D5546 in August 1959 and initially worked trains over the Great Eastern section, and today is currently the only Class 31 registered to operate on the national network. Another English Electric veteran was Class 37 37067, which was built at English Electric's Vulcan Foundry in November 1962, and she passes Holme Lane Bridge on the approach to River Frome. (37067) was converted into a refurbished freight heavyweight Class 37-7 in January 1987, receiving the number 37703, and currently wears both identities, one on each side, and we see 37703 as she enters Corfe Castle. One of the highlights of the gala was the visit of two Peak class locomotives, an original pilot scheme Class 44, D4 Great Gable, and also a later Class 46, 46045. And entering Harmon's Cross, we see D4 Great Gable as she heads for Corfe Castle. One of 10 pre-production pilot scheme Peaks, Class 44 D4 Great Gable, was built by BR at Derby and entered traffic in September 1959, initially based at Camden. Having departed from River Frome near Walgret Junction, the 2,300 Sulzer Giant makes an impressive sight as she climbs towards Holme Lane. Also attending the gala was Class 46 Peak D182, which would later be renumbered as 46045 under tops, and we see the Peak as it crosses Corfe Common and heads towards Swanage. Powered by a 12-cylinder Sulzer engine, the 2,500 horsepower Class 46s were impressive machines and the mainstay of expresses from the northeast to the southwest during the 1970s and early 80s. And powering away from Wargrit Junction, 46045 passes Holme Lane. The highlight of the gala was the return of Network South East liveried Class 50, 50026 Indomitable, and creating quite a bit of smoke, she crosses Corfe Common and heads for Swanage. The Class 50s were the flagship locomotive for Network South East when the livery was launched in June 1986. But in 1988, a revised version with a slightly darker blue was issued, which would eventually be worn by over half the Class 50 fleet. Returning to Wargrit Junction and near the boundary with Network Rail, 50026 Indomitable climbs away and passes Holme Lane, with Pilot Scheme Peak D4 Great Gable on the rear. Passing Creech Bottom Crossing, we have quite a southern region collection as 50026 top and tails with 33111 and electro diesel 73136 as they return to Port Castle. One of the saddest scenes throughout the year was the sight of high-speed power cars and trailers being taken away for scrap. And on the 31st of May 2022, Class 56 56081 was sent to haul power cars 43197, 43193 and 43069 from Lara Depot to Newport for scrapping. And we see the sad formation as it climbs Hemerdon Bank. In our final feature, we make a brief visit to the Severn Valley Railway, where in the summer of 2022, to celebrate Her Majesty the Queen's 70th anniversary of accession to the throne, D1062 Western Courier was renamed and renumbered as long scrap sister D1040 Western Queen, which we see leaving Foley Park Tunnel. One of the crew-built Westerns, D1040 Western Queen entered traffic in September 1962 and was initially allocated to Old Oak Common before being transferred to Lara in May 1969 and making a glorious noise from her twin Maybach V12s, Western Queen climbs Erkington Bank. Western Queen was withdrawn from Lara in February 1976, having covered an amazing 1.2 million miles. And we end our programme with a view of Western Queen at Arley. And the Western Locomotive Association can rightly be commended for having done an incredible job in restoring not only a long-lost classmate, but in honouring Her Majesty the Queen in her 70th year on the throne.